Good afternoon, good evening, good morning in whatever part of the world you're in. My name is David Weisberg. It's my honor to be the executive director of World Jewish Relief in the USA. Well, I'm so grateful that so many of you are able to join us today, folks in the UK, folks in the US and beyond. I think I just saw somebody register from Norway. And so I know this is truly a global gathering. It's also one that I wish that we did not have to have in the first place. I certainly wish that circumstances were different right now. Our extended family in Ukraine is facing one of the most dangerous moments since the early days of the war. And as you'll recall, when the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine happened, well, now over 4 years ago, it was predicted that it would last about 30 days and Ukraine would now be Russia. So the fact that there's still a Ukraine is a testament to the bravery and fortitude of the Ukrainian people. And while it's so easy to have our eyes turned to what is the newest crisis in the world, turning towards one crisis can't mean turning away from another. And it's so important that we stand by our extended family in Ukraine at this moment of need. And just over a week ago, Russia launched approximately 600 drones and 90 missiles in Ukraine in one of the largest aerial attacks of the war. And days later, another massive barrage involved more than 650 drones and 70 missiles. These attacks have damaged homes, destroyed critical infrastructure, and left vulnerable citizens increasingly exposed. And so we're here today gathered to learn more about the situation on the ground. And I'm very grateful that among those who are joining us today uh, are Lubov Ranchuk from World Jewish Relief, who is in Ukraine right now, and our wonderful partner, Julia Goldenberg from 2U in Kyiv, who will talk about our Ukraine home repairs program. And from World Jewish Relief in London, Beth Safar, our director of older persons programs, and our wonderful chief executive, Paul Anticoni. And so, Paul, I want to ask you to help us get started and give us an overview of World Jewish Relief's work in Ukraine, particularly since the start of the full-scale invasion, the recent escalation in attacks, and the humanitarian needs that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, thanks, David. Thanks for leading on this and for bringing awareness of what's going on in Ukraine, again, to our wonderful support base. I can see a list of very, very familiar names. I mean, as David highlights, now in its fifth year, unbelievable that we're in our fifth year, Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine really continues to deepen this protracted humanitarian crisis. I mean, aware on the news, active ground fighting continues in eastern, southern, northern oblasts, and air, missile, drone, glide bomb strikes continue to hit civilian and critical infrastructure nationwide. And even the sort of now talk about sort of Belarus flexing its muscles and looking to further aid and assist Russian attacks on Ukraine. We must not forget, at the moment, there are still 3.7 million people displaced in Ukraine. A further almost 6 million left the country. And there's something like between 3 and 5 million Ukrainians living under Russian occupation. I think the UN recently estimated that just over 10 million Ukrainians are in need of humanitarian assistance. Those numbers are absolutely staggering. World Jewish Relief, I mean, many of you know, we've been active in Ukraine through a wonderful network of partners, including Julia's partner, JTU, for over 30 years, supporting, I mean, initially vulnerable Jewish clients, and now we work within the Jewish community and beyond. 15 of those years has been spent helping to repair and maintain the homes of dilapidated homes of Jewish clients. For those of you that might have seen some of our recent updates, Ukraine's Jewish community numbers, I mean, we know we love the numbers game, but it numbers somewhere between, I think, 70 and 90,000. It's a predominantly older community. and highly vulnerable. And this recent unprecedented barrage of Russian missiles, I mean, in my mind, makes Ukraine's Jewish community one of the most vulnerable Jewish communities worldwide at this moment. I cannot underemphasize that. Um, uh, um, David's figures, David talked about recent missile and drone attacks. I saw in May alone, Russia sent over 8,000 drones into Ukraine. I mean, compared to anywhere else in the world in recent years, and there are too many conflicts in the world, that number is unbelievably staggering. And I think it indicates that, despite what we might read and think in the news, Russian forces still maintain both sort of retain the stockpiles and operational capability to conduct repeated, high volume, indiscriminate combined attacks nationwide across Ukraine. And the style of those attacks, particularly in recent days into Kyiv, have meant, particularly using some of these hypersonic missiles, very limited warnings, indiscriminate targeting, difficult to intercept. And we know Ukraine's air defenses are fragile. And these combined attacks coming from different locations, all one after another. In the last 15 years, we've repaired 3,500 Jewish homes. But today, I estimate there are 1,000 Jewish homes needing urgent repair. We have funds at the moment to repair about 20. And I am desperate now to scale up our capability as I believe the only agency through a network of partners that has the ability to address this scale of damage nationwide across Ukraine. And I hope tonight highlights the urgency and the emergency of this necessity that we just cannot ignore for much longer. And I really appreciate people listening and listening to Julia and Luba's stories, particularly about how tough it is and how important it is that we do what we can to assist. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And I just want to reflect. I was first in Ukraine 8 years ago, and going to visit, the 70, 80-year-old who lives on the 5-floor walk-up, whose monthly pension barely covers the cost of the food and the medicine and the utilities, and our wonderful partners at the JDC are helping them with debit cards. I was there again in February with Paul and a couple of other folks from World Jewish Relief, visiting the folks with the exact same kind of stories, the same 70, 80-year-old up the 5th floor walk-up whose monthly pension doesn't cover the cost of the food and the medicine and the utilities, with the difference that now, her windows have been blown out. She has no heat. It's in the middle of a brutal winter. She has electricity for 2 or 3 hours a day. She can't run down 5 flights of steps every time there's an air alert. And so she's huddled under her hallway and her kitchen floor. It is really a desperate situation from folks who need our help to keep going and who don't have an ability to go elsewhere. And I want to bring on Luba Vranchuk, or Luba as we call her on staff. Luba is part of our World Jewish Relief team, where she manages projects and leads monitoring and evaluation activities to support older people in Eastern Europe. She is born in Ukraine, raised in Ukraine, based in London now, but has been in Ukraine for the past couple of weeks and reporting to us on the really critical and honestly very scary situation there. And so if you could just share with us a little bit what it's felt like being in Ukraine for the past few weeks with the increased intensity of the attacks.
One of my friends from Ukraine once told me that the thing that is always supporting her, like not supporting, but going with her everywhere, is the background anxiety. You know that you can live by day, but you don't know what to expect by night. Drone attacks drone attacks happen in Ukraine almost every day. I don't mean only Kyiv, but like the whole territory. Sometimes with great intensity, sometimes with lead, but it's always like a reality. You know that you might have lunch. Now it's their siren. You have to check if the drones are in your direction. So you need to do something about that. Since I arrived, and I haven't been planning to meet two major attacks. So because I don't have experience of surviving those missile attacks constantly, I don't know the scale of it. So the first one was, it was scary, but I was like, maybe it's something that people experience, well, often. But then when I woke up, well, woke up, it's not the best word because I almost didn't have sleep. But when I started to talk to some of my friends in the morning, and they said that it was one of the worst attack during the recent months, probably even years, I realized that the scale of what might happen next can get even worse than it was before. So I will not repeat the numbers that David said before, but it was pretty scary. You could hear the explosions. You don't know where it happens. And definitely, I was staying in my friend's apartment, and it was in the like residential area. Nothing important is there, but you never know. You never know where the missile will be intercepted, if it's going to be intercepted, and even if it's not exploding in your building, the aftershocks might still affect you. Earlier this week, I was returning to my apartment after a meeting, so it was on Monday, I suppose, and I was struck by surreal nature of what I was seeing. So in the metro station, there were people lying on the floor with their sleeping bags and preparing to spend the night there. It reminded me of London during the Second World War, but also when I left, when you step outside of the underground, you see the old lady selling flowers. You see teenagers doing some teenage things. You can see people arguing. You can see people hugging. You can see people, the smell of spring. And I mean spring because it was really cold during the day. Life continues even under these attacks, but that is what living through the war means. On one hand, you're reminded that tomorrow might never happen, or you might experience some losses, people's losses, health, buildings, I don't know, cars, whatever. But everything that is lost was someone's investment in their lives. And it's important. I know that the life is the most precious thing that we have, but for some people, their flats are probably one of the most important investment and the huge amount of money that they were collecting for many, many years. But it is difficult to describe how exhausting it must be, not just to stay there for a couple of weeks, but actually live under constant threat and attacks. And for example, we know for sure that many of our partners check on their clients every day, on the next day after the attacks. So they're trying to see what might be done, are there any damages, how they can support those clients. And it's on top of their routine work, which it still continues. After, I say it's not only as Ukrainian, but someone with a close connection or someone with this close connection to the context, but simply as the person who wishes that everyone in this world would live in a safe place, a life where you don't need to wonder either you will wake up tomorrow or think about where to find a warmer sleeping bag to sleep in the underground station.
Lubith, thank you so much. I want to thank you for being on. I know that there's a lot of stress being in Ukraine now, and certainly we understand if at some point you need to drop off, but if you can stay with us, that's also wonderful. It's also a good time for me to let those who are attending know that there will be an opportunity for questions at the end. And if you use the question and answer function in Zoom, which you can start doing now to put your questions into the queue. We'll be able to address them, particularly to Julia and to Luba closer to the end of the program. I know that Paul and Beth have some other urgent needs relating to our work that we'll be calling on them on 30 minutes into the program as well. But it's a good opportunity to pivot to Beth, who works with our older people's programs. And Beth, I often think about, there's a line in Fiddler on the Roof where Tevye says, "You might ask why we stay up here if it's so dangerous. We stay because Anatevka is our home." And so there's always a question of, well, why are people staying if it's so dangerous? And so tell us what you're hearing from our partners on the ground, and tell us about those folks who have no choice but to stay.
Thanks, David. And Fiddler on the Roof is definitely my all-time favorite film. So, and I do always get emotional at that point in the film. And thank you very much, Luba, for speaking. And also just to say that every morning and every night, Luba has to check in with me. And there have been a couple of mornings where I got a little bit concerned, you know, although the time difference helps. Usually by the time I wake up, she's already checked in. But it has been extremely concerning the last couple of weeks in particular. Just very briefly, because I don't want to take up Julia's time, and also Paul and I have to go soon. You know, our older people programs are working with about 8,000 older Jewish people across Ukraine, about 10 different locations. Obviously, we have our home repairs partner and projects, which Julia will talk about. But we also support active aging activities, dementia support, home care, medical aid, material aid, winter aid. And we also, as David mentioned, you know, we work, Paul mentioned, we work beyond the Jewish community with addressing humanitarian needs of older people most affected by the ongoing war. So nowhere in Ukraine is safe at the moment. You know, we're always checking in with our partners across the country. Just last month, a drone hit our partner in Zaporizhia in eastern Ukraine, hit the courtyard, blew out the windows. There were 100 older people inside at the time doing activities, active aging activities. Thankfully, no injuries and no deaths caused by that. And I just heard yesterday from our partner in Sumy in northeastern Ukraine that a drone hit the courtyard, a residential courtyard where the accountant lives in their organization, and she also has a completely damaged balcony and windows. So it's like every day there's, you know, we're constantly checking in with people and finding out where the greatest needs are, and we try and help where we can. And of course, you'll hear about what's been going on in Kyiv from Julia. So our partners provide really practical assistance. You know, I mentioned all the different kinds of practical assistance we provide, but I think one of the things that strikes me the most is that they provide this real wraparound psychological support and checking in with all of our Jewish participants, clients, even, you know, on a daily basis after a night which Luba described of, you know, intense attacks. So I saw like excerpts from a group chat from our partner in Kyiv, and it was, you know, it's actually surreal reading these messages where people are literally posting, you know, I'm alive, and they're all kind of not joking about it, but like it's a very warm chat that, you know, and it's that checking in with somebody, yeah, to make sure that they're okay. Do they need anything? Are their windows damaged? In which case they go to Julia and to find out what the possibilities are there. So it's this like real emotional backbone, I think, that our partners are able to provide for older Jewish people. And as David mentioned, you know, a lot of people ask, why do people stay? Older people have been the least likely to relocate within Ukraine and certainly to leave the country. And there was a recent study just published by the UN Refugee Agency looking at this particular issue. And they found it was really interesting because the data showed that the older the person is and the higher the prevalence of a specific need and the smaller the household size, i.e. they live on their own, the less likely the person is to evacuate, which all makes perfect sense. And also, as Luba said, you know, people are extremely attached to their homes. They don't want to leave their homes, or they don't have the physical energy or the financial means, and they don't want to adapt to a new place. They wouldn't be able to afford the rental costs. So this is why we see that most of the older Jewish communities that we support, even in the more dangerous locations, have more or less stayed behind. And that's why it's really important that our partners and, you know, World Jewish Relief as well continues to provide this influx of support, because our partners have stayed you know, despite the opportunities that they might have had to leave, but they've stayed to support their elderly, vulnerable community members, which is really important. And so I think that's why it's great that we're focusing attention tonight on home repairs, because home repairs really does provide that practical assistance that is actually enabling people to survive this horrific and traumatic experience. But we've heard so many times from clients who have said, you know, the fact that somebody called up and arranged for someone to come around and measure up my windows, it's not just about the financial assistance that, you know, we know they don't have the pensions are low. You said, David, you know, we know they don't have the financial means to actually pay for the repairs, but the fact that they have a trusted builder or a contractor coming round recommended by our partner organization is just so valuable from a psychological perspective as well, that they're not going to be duped. The job is going to be done well. It's going to be done to a high quality. But to return to what David started the event with, you know, I'm sorry that we're having to have this conversation, and I wish that we could get back to repairing homes that were simply falling out of repair and making them nicer for people, rather than having to invest funds and try and, you know, meet this huge need to repair this thousands and thousands and millions of windows that need repairing. So that's where I'll finish.
Beth, thanks so much. I know you and Paul have to drop off soon. I want to pivot towards introducing a real all-star in Kyiv when it comes to work on behalf of World Jewish Relief, but also work on behalf of all of us. I see our role as World Jewish Relief is not just to lift up those who are in crisis, but to give others the opportunity to do that as well. And through Julia Goldenberg's work to you in the Ukraine Home Repairs Program, she's giving all of us a tangible opportunity when we watch on the news what's going on in Ukraine, and when we read about it in the papers, if it was even in the headlines anymore, that we don't have to read it and say, I feel concurrently desperately sad and completely helpless. But Julia's work gives us the opportunity to make a tangible impact through home repairs. So I'm pleased to welcome Julia to the program. While Julia speaks, I am going to share some images on the screen. They may not match up precisely with what she's talking about at the moment. In moments like this, we don't have time for lots of choreography, but really just have to respond to the urgency of the moment. And so, Julia, can I ask you to just share with us about the Ukraine Home Repairs Program in partnership with 2U and how the needs have increased in the past few weeks?
Hello, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank each and everyone for being here right now, and for listening to all that, and for sharing our emotions and what we are experiencing right now here in Ukraine. The project was really nice, beautiful, and as Beth mentioned already, it was aimed at making people's life more dignified and more comfortable, but it belongs to the past. Since full-scale invasion, unfortunately, we had to fix only on the post-strikes or post-shelling repairs, as the intensivity of strikes is only increasing, unfortunately. And considering that we are dealing with the rebirth of real fascists, they do it on purpose, and they target residential buildings. So the Jewish community is not an exception now. If 85 years ago they wanted to kill us as Jews, those fascists or Nazis wanted to kill us as Jews because we were Jewish, it was ethnic origin. Now they want us to kill because we live in Ukraine, even not because we're speaking Ukrainian. So since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, we were privileged to repair 46 homes after the strikes. And it means not to make somebody's life better. It means we come to a person like this. You see Evdokia right now. Her name is Evdokia and she's from Kyiv. She's 90 and she's a Holocaust survivor. But it means that we give them the possibility just to survive and to live. A person like Evdokia with a monthly pension of about 150 US dollars can't afford a new window. Considering her age and emotional condition, she can't look for someone who would come and do it for her, even if we imagine that she has enough funds, you know. And everything is happened on the background of prices increase. So for people like she, or for a person like Larissa, if I'm not mistaken, it's Larissa, and this person has a calm life. Unfortunately, she appeared to live in the area of Kyiv called Lukyanovka. Probably this is the center of decision-making, because last week, during the previous attack, they simply destroyed the food market there completely, one of the oldest food markets of the city. And as far as they tried to destroy whatever they could in this area, as not far from it, there is a military plant, a former military plant that doesn't exist almost anymore. They destroyed enormous amount of residential buildings, enormous amount. And Larissa is one of those who suffered. She's 81. She has no relatives at all. She is completely lonely. She is a Chesed client. So she receives some support from the local community. But in the same time, it happened so that I spoke with her personally just a day after the attack. And she was, she was more than completely lost. She was frustrated. She was positively sure that her flat would be flooded as there are no windows. She was positively sure that she would not survive the coming winter, as she would have no possibility to install windows and balcony block, the door and the window attached to it. And we still remember the last winter, which was immensely cold in Ukraine this year, immensely cold. It was next to impossible to bury. So Larissa unfortunately one of the 31 elderly Nazi and non-Nazi victims whose homes suffered. We are speaking only about elderly Jews, Chesed clients. Only during one night attack. It was the most intense attack in terms of the number of homes, of Jewish homes suffered. In addition to that, we have, as of today, some 25 more appeals from Jews who are not Chesed clients, because they are 59, for example, or they don't have all appropriate documents, etc., etc. So it's more than 50 Jewish homes. I'm not speaking about non-Jewish people. I'm not speaking about those whose residential buildings and their apartments do not exist anymore. And to my mind, it's very important to compare these two figures. We had about 100 people from Chesed, let's say, whose homes suffered by May 24 this year. It's about 100 homes. And only during one night of the May 24, we received 50 more damaged apartments. And when we appear, it's not just, once again, the fixing of people's homes. It's the fixing of their lives, really. It's not because I want to praise someone. We show them that they are not abandoned, they are not neglected, and that people all over the world do think about them, and that the words "we stand with Ukraine" are not just words, it's action, it's a real action, and we are next to them. We help them to receive all appropriate papers. We to prove that their flats have been affected. We help them to receive these new windows. We have, of course, to prioritize who would be served and who not, because our funds are more than limited, unfortunately. And this is the most painful thing, you know. It's also such a stress, both for clients who apply and also for my team, you know. Because when you say no, sorry, because you have a son somewhere who is not talking to you for the last 10 years, it's very, very painful. But on the same time, we have too many people who have nobody like Larissa, as I said. So we have to make this choice.
Julia,
And
I really appreciate that, and I so appreciate all of the work that you're doing, and you know, the effort that it takes to help others when it's so easy in a time like this to say, I just need to take inward and take care of myself. And so we're grateful, and we hope you're finding the balance to be able to do both of those things, and to continue to find your personal strength as well. I want to continue to encourage folks to put questions into the Q&A. We'll get those to those in a moment. But I also want to let folks know who are attending the various ways that you can make a difference right now. As Julia said, the number of homes that need repair right now far exceed the resources that are available to you and to our other partners to proceed with those home repairs. And so Julia is faced with making these really impossible decisions of who is going to be helped now and who is going to need to wait, and whether we'll be able to help them at all. And so I want to let you know two ways that you can help. One way for our attendees in the UK and other places on that side of the Atlantic, and that is to support World Jewish Relief's urgent efforts in Ukraine to please scan this QR code or head directly to the World Jewish Relief website at worldjewishRelief.org, and we will send out a follow-up email that includes this information as well. And we'd also like to invite you to join our upcoming time-limited campaign on the 28th and 29th of June called No Time to Wait, which is supporting Ukrainians and Israelis living through the trauma of war. And during that time, on the 28th and 29th of June, all of your generous donations during this time will be doubled. And so that means if you make a contribution that could repair one home in Kyiv, it could then repair two homes in Kyiv. And so it's such an incentive to be able to do it on that date. In the US, we've launched something innovative as well, which is a peer-to-peer platform where you can adopt a home in Ukraine. It costs us about $3,600 per home repair in Ukraine. We know that for some people, they can afford to repair a home, but we don't want the opportunity to make impact to be limited to those who can afford to repair a home all by themselves. And so what this platform, and you can see a QR code and a link right there, allows folks to do, individuals, organizations, congregations, schools, is to adopt a home or more, set up a fundraising page, go out to your community and ask folks if they would contribute $25, $36, $50, $100 so that you can all join together to repair a home together, so that everybody understands that there's an opportunity to make a tangible difference. And now I want to go to questions. And one of the questions I saw, and I saw that Beth answered in the chat, but I think there's a particularly interesting story around this. There's the question that says, I've read there's a group who have invented a way of repairing windows with something that is blast proof. Are you in touch with them? And so, Julia, can you talk about the repairs that we do, the quality of the repairs that we do? Because as I understand, it's not a same for same replacement. And I heard a very powerful story from, I believe, last week about one of the windows that we had repaired 7 years ago.
Well, it's really very important for us to have a good quality. And it happens so that many of our clients are like close people to us already, especially those who are lonely. So when I read what happened last week in the Lukyanovka area, I just recollected that one of our clients, she's 84, I believe, lives just opposite the market, meaning her home would have suffered, and she has nobody. I want to emphasize it, nobody at all. And I started calling her and I couldn't get through, you know. And when she answered, she said, "Oh, Yulinka, I'm so happy to hear you. All the night I was thinking about you and your family, and I was just afraid that you have returned to your flat. My flat is few blocks from her home." And then she said, "You know, I want to thank you once again, not only for your call. Of course, thank you for thinking about me. I'm fine. My flat is fine. You can't even imagine your windows," and we did install windows in 2019. "Your windows survived. There are almost no windows in our residential building, and your windows survived." And you know, it could sound funny and pity in the same time. Last July, I believe, another client called a colleague of mine and said, "We have no flat, nothing. There are no windows in the building. It's another area. But you know what survived? Your windows and your balcony block that you installed 2 years ago. That's what survived." We do our best to provide clients with great quality for an average competitive price. And I want to emphasize that the figures I'm giving are just related to very old people, and only in Kyiv itself. And we have locations around Kyiv. We have Bila Tserkva, 90 kilometers from Kyiv, which had been attacked by the so-called Areshnik. And we have Cherniga, which is attacked all the time in the area. So the numbers are immensely high, unfortunately, numbers of those who suffer.
Yes, thank you. And yes, Lubov?
I heard the similar testimony when I visited one of our clients in Kyiv, which is Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, not far from the front line. So there was one lady whose home was, well, near her home was attacked twice. So at first, the whole windows from one side were completely broken, and our partner helped her to repair them, to install new windows. And then the next attack happened in just 6 months, and those windows survived. And the old one that stayed there for some reason it was broken once again. So I can definitely see that helping people to get quality materials, quality windows, help them to not only feel warm and safe as it was before, but also to be more secure in their own homes.
Thank you. So, Yulia Lubov, I want to ask you one closing question because I saw something really remarkable and inspiring when I was in Kyiv, which is that when we fix somebody's windows, when we fix their heat, that they're inviting their neighbors over for a meal. That the kids in the neighborhood say, oh, that's the warm place that I can go to now. And so I just want to hear from you on the sense of community in Ukraine right now and how people are supporting each other and how our support is enabling them to do that.
I should say it's both inspiring and frightening at the same moment, because the sense of community is happening when something awful is happening simultaneously. It's like one of my friends. Her apartment was also um, well, was ruined a bit during the most recent attacks. So her balcony was broken, and there was so many people when she posted about it who said, like, can we come and help you to get the glass, or help to clean the apartment before you can understand what's going to happen next. And she said, no, thank you, because we have so many neighbors and everyone in the area coming and supporting each other, just being the part of this. And I feel that it's the way of how we react, and especially Julia and all of the other partners that we have, that whenever I visit someone, they said that one of the most important thing is that they know they are not alone. They might be lonely, they might not have children or close relatives, but they don't feel alone, because they know that they have someone to lean on and to ask for support, at least emotional, for sure.
Thank you. Julia? Julia? There we go.
There we go. You know, for people now, it's very important to feel that they are not alone, that they have someone next to them. And it relates not only to the Jewish community itself, it relates to the general community. And also, yes, it's frustrating. It's very difficult, the sleepless nights. But I would give you probably another example, but that's what happened on May 14. There was another awful attack, really awful. And we had an event scheduled for this day, because this is the day when we commemorate the Ukrainians who rescued Jews during the Second World War. This is the day of Ukrainians, of righteous Gentiles, let's say. And we had a big event with ambassadors, with representatives of all churches, with the chief rabbi, etc. And in the morning, we had no idea how to do it, because children of righteous who also participated in the rescue campaign were supposed to come, and they are pretty old. They're like 90, you know. And when I called Rabbi, he said, well, I'm with you. I didn't sleep at all, but I'm with you. Then I called the priest, and he said, look, we are all together, and we have to come together. The third person was one of the children of this righteous. And he said, for us to come means not to obey them. We have to come, and we have to show we are all together. And we really come, different people, different ethnics, Jews, non-Jews, diplomats. And it was so emotional. This ceremony, this event has never been so emotional at this time. And going back to our issue, if we're speaking about repairs, straight after the attacks, neighbors always appear to help elderly, just to clean the glass, for example, So people are really very, very united. I could see it. People offer to stay at their places. Few, not few, quite a few people who can't live in their homes anymore as the consequences of the attacks, of the strikes, now live in different places. Some live with their friends, and some live just with people who offered them to stay with them, And this is on the background when we have enormous amount of displaced people all over Ukraine. Paul mentioned it. And a lot of them are in Kyiv. And they all need support,
Julia, thank you so much. I wanna thank the two of you, Julia and Lubov, as well as Paul and Beth, for the work that all of you do on our behalf. I think what's important for all of us to understand is, if we want to make a difference, if we're watching the news and we feel completely helpless, that there are opportunities to make a difference, that what we do is not about making asks, it's about presenting opportunities. And just to reiterate, if you're in the UK and you would like the opportunity not only to provide support in helping to make Ukraine home repairs, but to have them be doubled, that June 28th and 29th is the opportunity to do that. If you are in the US and want to rally your friends to make small contributions so that you can repair a home together, the Ukraine Home Repairs platform is the way to do that, that there are opportunities for all of us in this time of tremendous need for the people of Ukraine to say that now, in the 5th year of this unprovoked attack, in the 5th year of this war, not of your choosing, you have been brave, you've shown incredible fortitude, you've helped each other, and we're not going to turn away from you. We're going to reach out at this moment and say, how can we continue to stand with you? And so, Yulia, Lubov, I want to let you know that we do stand with you. I know that in the continuing days, it is my prayer that that support will only continue to grow, and my even greater prayer that we do not need to continue to have briefings like this, because Ukraine will continue to stand and show its sovereignty and have the freedom that it so deserves. So thank you so much, and I wish you, most importantly, in the most immediate, a peaceful night. Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for joining us today.